Hey everybody, welcome to This Old Trike. This is our 2023 year-end wrap-up. So I'm going to try to make this short because I know I can get a little long-winded. But I'm going to break down the 12 months, what we accomplished this year. The numbers are down. I'll tell you, well, some numbers are down, some numbers are up. But let me show you what exactly we did. Okay, let's start off with January. January was pretty much focused on the restoration of the 84 200E from Finland. Now, if you haven't watched the channel and you don't know what I'm talking about, Honda made an 84 200E. They did not sell it in the US. And when I make a post about this, usually in short format on a reel for Instagram or TikTok or a YouTube short, it blows people's minds and they think they've got one just like it, or their uncle's brother had one, or whatever. But this one, as you may recall, we imported from Finland at the end of 2022. And it came in a crate. We uncrated it, powder coated it, and January is when we started to assemble that. And my first video of the year on January 9th was the part 2 of that assembly process of that build. On the 13th, we did a video from the house. We did the first Meekum auction video. A 350X had sold for $16,500, and it was just atrocious. And we picked apart that machine and a few others, and a lot of them were done by the gentleman that has become known as the Red Chain Bandit. Out of Pennsylvania, what's he called? The candy shop, the 250R candy shop. Guy's a rip-off con artist. Don't buy anything from him. There's horror stories all over the place. So Sugarloaf, Pennsylvania is his location. Anyway, on the 15th, we did part 3 of the 200E build. It was really coming together. I did another video from the house on the 20th. Where do I find OEM parts? Because I get asked all the time in comments, on Instagram, on whatever platform. People want to know, where do I get parts? And of course, the way they ask it, they never give you enough information. What kind of parts? Oh, I want new OEM fenders. Well, you're probably not going to find those, but anyway, this video I put together kind of answers those questions. If you want OEM parts, where do I get them? How do I source them? Things like that. Probably things I shouldn't tell people, but I do because I'm a nice guy. And on the 22nd of January, 2023, we finished the 200E. We finished it. Get it? See what I did there? And that machine was kind of assembled using parts off a donor machine. You know, if one bolt was in nicer shape, you know, it wasn't a full-on restoration so much as the 85 200ES that I'm looking at was. This one was trying to preserve what was good while using a powder coated frame and a lot of original parts. But I had a donor bike, an 83 200E. We nicknamed that Peter because we were robbing Peter to pay Paul. But on the 29th, we got Peter all back together, and we ended up selling that to some guy I don't know, but it was through my buddy Jeff Mahar. He facilitated that deal, so thank you, Jeff, for that. We ended up on January, last day of the month, we did a carb rebuild on my son's Recon. We did a TRX 90 tune-up on my daughter's 90, and the 300EX that we got from my buddy Ryan Cogswell in the fall of 2022, we brought that in the shop and got a new battery in that, got that running good, and my son really liked that. That video aired on February 8th. Speaking of February, let's talk about what happened then. So in February, we started that month out on the 4th. I tore down the engine from an 85 250R, the white one. This machine I've owned since 1997. Started the teardown process. I've never been into a motor so deep, so this was pretty terrifying. I did a video on this. It was super duper cold outside that day. So I did that water trick where you take boiling water and you sling it up over your head. So that was pretty neat. I did a video to complement the where do I find OEM parts video. I did a video on where do I find aftermarket parts. So use that to highlight some of my buddies that are in the three-wheeler parts making game, like Mike Pomgren, BMS Motorsports, Bruce Allman with his decals, Travis Gisclair and Matt Serwa with their tires, and now grab bars and a whole bunch of stuff they're doing. There's a lot of people out there. Watch that video to hear about all of them. On the 10th, I sent my 250R cases to Mike Pomgren. Speaking of Mike, he vapor honed them and put some bearings in for me, put the water pump in. You need a special tool for that. So he did that for me. That video aired on the 13th. Went to my buddy Jeff Mahar's house. I mentioned him in January. That's when I delivered the 83 Big Red and did a video on his collection. He's got probably the nicest 85 350X over fender machine that I've ever seen. So it's just beautiful. Survivor, all original. And I brought home a bunch of maple to make a dining room table out of. And you're probably wondering, how's the dining room table look? It's not done. I know. Anyway, also on the 10th, I started the This Old Trike Insider membership program. What is that? Let me tell you about it. So sometime at the tail end of 2022, I guess maybe it was early in 2023, YouTube put together a program where you could get paid memberships and you can do different tiers and different things. So I stuck my toe in the water and I set up a membership program, $5 a month. I don't get all of that. YouTube steals some, of course. But I called it This Old Trike Insiders. And I think we've had as many as 12, but now we're down to 11. Let me talk about my insiders. So I keep track. It all started with Ken. Ken was my first, and my buddy Jim Phillips, local buddy of mine. He supports me. Andy Collins is like the man. He and I chat quite a bit. Neil Casey, Jack Mortensen, Phil Herbert. I got to meet Phil down at Binky's in 2022. Patrick Wells, the man. Southeast. Oh, what is it, Pat? Do I got a sticker? I got a sticker with you somewhere. Southeast. I didn't put it up yet. I'll put it over the screen. It's blanking me. Curdy Eldridge. We all know Curdy 223 Cycles. Jarrett Holloway's been messaging me. He's going to come visit in August this coming year, 2024, to my vintage show that I'm having, 3rd annual. Zachary Hart and Pat Hirsch, Pat in the bunker. So these are my insiders. They support me. The cool thing, they pay a little bit of money, and most of that goes to me. But I do like just behind the scenes video. They're not edited. I don't use my gimbal. It's just kind of off the cuff. Here's what I'm working on. It's not always three-wheeler related. It's stuff around the property, stuff I'm working on in the shop, which I'll give you an update on things we did in the shop. So that's really what the Insider program is. I started that February 10th. So February 11th, I started insulating the ceiling in my bonus shop. And that's the room right to my left. So this was, when I started this shop, that was all outside. So we added on the building in 17. And I decided last year to make that space over there into a heated, insulated area where I could do sandblasting and painting and things like that. I did the walls in 2022, and I wanted to get the ceiling done so it could actually hold some heat if I left the doors open, which I do now. That started on the 11th. On the 18th, I did a wood burning of a US 90 for my very good buddy Mike Pomgren. That video aired on the 26th, but that was a gift that I would be presenting to him when Palin and I went to visit him and check out his shop and pick up my Vapor Home cases. I did a video on the 20th on my 450 ER, but it was so slick and slippery out on the ice, I couldn't get any traction, so it was kind of a dud. But on the 25th, this was the 2-year anniversary of my channel. And that channel started with this machine right here and this engine that I'm going to pick up. I've had this machine since 97. I thought, oh, what better machine to start my channel with and tear it down and restore it. And here it is, coming up on 3 years later, and it's still not done. But update on that coming. We went to Mass, though, to pick up that 250R motor from Mike. And I picked up a big red 350D that I bought right at the end of December in 2022 from my buddy Dustin Bartley. So he took a 350D and an 85 Big Red and he merged them together, and it's not done. It's a project, so I got to finish it off, and I haven't done anything with it since I brought it home, but that's what happened in February 25th. We'll run right into March. I started to paint my bonus shop. So my one end wall was all dark brown. It really just soaked up any light that I put in there. So I painted that a bright color. I put fresh lights in there. I've really been enjoying these LED lights that my buddy Jeff Mahar recommended to me. And they're They're pretty reasonable. They're on Amazon. I'll put a link for them in there. I really should start an affiliate program because I'm recommending a lot of stuff. Anyway, started to paint the bonus shop. Put the second video out from Mike Pomgren's where we really got into his hoard of new old stock parts. It's pretty impressive. You can make a drinking game out of how many times I said, wow, wow, wow. March 11th, I brought the 86 250 SX into the shop for some repairs with Bennett. He had crashed that a year or two before. The handlebars were bent. We put a new set of handlebars from Mike Pomgren. It's the 250R 350X handlebars, so they're a little bit wider, and they're a little more forward, but they work. So we put those on. We did a fender repair. That video aired on March 14th. But on the 12th, Bennett and I went up to my buddy Doug Pete's place. He's got some awesome trails that he grooms and maintains. We had an amazing day of riding. That video came out on the 19th. You'll notice there's sometimes a lag between when I do the things and when I put the videos out. That's how it works. On the 15th, I bought a pair of Takeoff 25-inch whammy last knobby tires that go on an 1980 185 from a guy in California. Can't remember the name right now, but I've chatted with him quite a bit. On the 24th of March, the bonus shop became operational. So let me show you the bonus shop. So through these doors, these doors didn't used to exist. They were just a wall at one point, but now this is my bonus shop. You know, it's lived in. You know, we do things in here. I've got my sandblast cabinet in there, and I've got a shelf of goodies and just storing stuff. I got signs that used to be in my shop when I was a kid. You know, this is the original sticker off that 85 250R frame sticker. But we painted this wall to reflect light. We put this shelf up. We've now got the metal ceiling in, but that didn't come till this summer. But all the walls are done. I still have to wire the outlets. Like you can see next to the panel, there's outlets. There's an outlet here. I still haven't hardwired them. They're just roughed in, but it's usable. And sometimes that's what's important. So on the 26th, we took another ride. Well, it was just me this time. I went up to my buddy Doug's again. We did a ride on his trails. It was awesome. Awesome day. After that, I went further north to Plattsburgh to pick up a second sandblast cabinet, which we just saw in the other room. And that one had been converted to a vapor honing cabinet. So it's pretty neat. I need to use it more. I need to get some better glass bead, but I can't wait to do more things with that. And then I went even further north to Craig Deloria's. I had bought a new old stock, still in the box, toolbox for a Big Red. I had to pick that up. And while I was there, I bought some 4 Snow tires. I bought a 200M, a black rear rack that wasn't new old stock in a bag, but it had never been used. So that was pretty cool. And that video aired on April 8th. On the 28th of March, I bought a Fat Cat from my buddy Donnie Bizall. Donnie, whose real name is John, he lives about 45 minutes south of here, so I picked that up around that time. I can't remember exactly. I remember it was cold that morning. But April 1st, April Fool's Day, we swapped out the carb on my Ryder 350X from a... is that really when that happened? I can't remember. Around that time, maybe it wasn't April 1st, but we swapped out my 400EX carburetor on my 350X to a new one that Curdy sent me and made a whole bunch of difference. I think that happened while I was up. I'm confusing details. Doesn't matter. No, it's right. This is right. April 1st we did that. The pictures don't lie. I go through my pictures and get all this, but that machine runs like a monster now. The valves had tightened up. That was the main offender for the reason it was running like it was. But on the 16th, we swapped some parts around on that 86 Fat Cat that I got from Donnie Bizall. Put some of the original stuff on my keeper, and I sold off the machine as it stood then and made a video on that. On the 18th, this was exciting. My buddy Jim Phillips, I mentioned him when we talked about my insiders. He purchased a 350X, an 86 350X that came from me. This was in, I think, 2020. not long after he bought it, I said, if you ever sell that, I would love first refusal if you could do that for me. And he's like, sure, yeah. But I didn't anticipate him ever selling it. But guess what? He did. And he gave me first refusal. We agreed on it. I bought it back. And over the next month or so, I cleaned that up. You'll hear about that. But as soon as I got that back in the shop, I had to go into snert prep. Snert, which is a poker run that I do in April usually. I've done it for, I think, 5 or 6 years now. There was a gap in there for COVID because COVID spreads terribly when you're riding ATVs, out in the woods. If you're remotely near people, it's terrible. But I did some snert prep, changed the oil, tightened the chain, just things like that. Put on my over fender, my Gonzo nose over fender. And then the following day, the 22nd, was snert. It was super dry this year. And I think because the frost had gone out of the ground, they really limited the amount of trails where the frost was going out of the ground. And if you don't know what that means, the ground gets really soft. And the majority of the machines that do this run are side-by-sides, and they just would annihilate the terrain. So this was the driest year. This was the most road riding. So it's cool. Like as a kid, if you told me I'd ever get tired of road riding, I'd laugh at you, but it does. It gets pretty monotonous. Super dry, limited trails. We only did 72.5 miles. Every year I'm hoping to hit at least 100, but 72 is where it was at. That video aired on May 1st, and then I got back into cleaning up that 350X I got from Jim. And then we were on to May. So May 5th, I did a video to kind of respond to a question I get asked quite a bit about paperwork for these old three-wheelers. So a lot of people won't buy something because it doesn't come with paperwork. And I just think that's stupid. And if you're doing it out of ignorance, that's one thing. But if that's your thing, I think that's nonsense, because I show you in this video how you can take a picture of the VIN and a bill of sale and some other forms from the DMV that maybe you're just not used to, and register any of these ATVs with just those things alone. You don't need a prior registration. If the paperwork is lost, that doesn't mean you shouldn't buy something unless you suspect it's stolen. If things are shady, that's a different story. But I do that video, and I got that was for the 350X I got from my buddy Jim Phillips, and I put the carb. I had the carb restored by Curdy Eldridge. I sent it to Curdy. So I sent it out to Curdy to be restored. Curdy runs 223 cycles. So that was all on the 5th. That was a busy day. On the 9th, we brought the 88 Big Red into the shop. There's another one, 88 Big Red. I thought, some people think 86 was the last year for three-wheelers. And I used to think that too. But no, 4 models exist in 87. And outside the US, they sold an 88 Big Red. I got one from England a couple years ago, but it hadn't been restored yet, and it was pretty ugly. So finally brought that into the shop, started tearing it down. That video aired on the 16th of May. On the 12th, I dropped off my frame for the Big Red at the powder coat shop, and I do a video where I peel off the sticker, and very controversial. But dropped that off, and we were getting ready to go on a trip, and I needed to mow my lawn. I hadn't been mowing my lawn, so we bought a new mower, and my son loves it, zero turn. That's in the weeds. It had nothing to do with the channel, but he keeps the lawn looking good with it, and I'm very thankful to have him. Thank you, Bennett. Went to Myrtle Beach on the 13th with the family, had a nice time away, met up with my wife's parents and brother, and had a good time. Didn't really get any Trike content when we were out, so sorry to disappoint you guys. But on the 23rd, we were back. We started tracking the days until Trike Fest, because I wanted to have the 88 Big Red at Trike Fest, and I wanted to have a custom pink ATC 70 for my daughter. And I was fooling myself to think that both could come together. But eventually you'll see I cut the 88 Big Red loose. I'm not cutting it loose like I sold it, but I let go of the push to get that done. I'm focused on the pink Palomino, as we began to call it. And we ordered a custom seat from Cascade Seats out west, I think Oregon they're located in. And that came in. I did a video on how to get the exhaust, a sheared off exhaust stud out of the 88 Big Red. You see in that video, and then again when I stretched the frame on the pink Palomino, how horrible of a welder I am. But Dan Henning, my good buddy, thank you, Dan, he's making repop Honda line trailers. So get ready for that in 2024. But Dan had the wherewithal to ask me to send him pictures of my setup, because I told him I'm in the weeds right now, and I apologize. I'm like, I'm using gas, I'm using solid core wire, I've got the polarity right. Like I'm used to being halfway decent at things. I don't know why I can't do this. And he goes, send me pictures. So I sent him pictures, and he could see that I was using flux core wire, and that's why it's all snap, crackle, pop when I'm welding. I haven't swapped that out yet, but I'm excited to get in and do some welding to redeem myself. Even Patrick Wells on his channel that I can't remember the name of because it's so long, he even makes fun of me, and he's a nice guy, but I'm in the weeds. On the 27th, I went to visit my buddy Toby's collection. He had picked up some parts for me, some 450 ER plastics and tires and seat that I got from another guy, Michael Vincent. And we saw his collection. He's got a Tiger 500, he's got a Tiger 250, and a whole mess of nice bikes. So it was cool to see those. I bought a lot of machines from him in 2020 and left him with not very many, and he has gone full bore restocking, basically. On the 28th rather, we did a video on all 5 of the 200cc Big Reds. And 2 of those you might not know. Speaking of, the 85 200 ES right here. And then over my shoulder, the 84 200E. So that's the one from Finland. This one came from England. And the 88 Big Red also came from England, but that's in my bonus shop sitting on the bench. So that rounded out May. We're in June now. On the 1st, I had this idea. I got some IBC totes. You know what those are? Those are like the big kind of white plastic looking things that come in a cage. People store liquids in them, or some people use the cages for firewood. But I thought, what if I bought the cage, not the cage, the tote itself, and used it to contain a large-scale vapor hone that you could use on ATV motors. And I could use that on my 88 Big Red. Anyway, it didn't work out that well. I made a video about it. It was the worst idea ever. It wasn't necessarily the worst idea, but it didn't work as I intended. But that was right around the time we started working on the pink Palomino, because we basically had no time. And if we wanted to get this thing done, we had to get after it. So we tore down, Palin and I tore down, I think it was an 81 ATC 70. That's when I did the frame stretch. You see my horrible welding there. On the 5th, we sold one of the 83 110, the blue ones I had, to the Honda Order Kids Fund to be given away at Trike Fest. So that was pretty cool that one of those was going there. The 88 Big Red was officially backburnered on the 10th of June. There was no way that was going to happen and be done in time for Trike Fest. So we were focusing solely on the pink Palomino. On the 11th, the frame stretch for the pink Palomino aired, and you'll see my horrible welding there. Please check that out. Hope to redeem myself, as I said. All efforts were going into the pink Palomino because Palin wanted to unveil this. Part 2 of the video of that build aired on the 30th. It was completed at Trike Fest. I hated doing that. I have vowed not to finish a 3-wheeler build at Trike Fest anymore. I owe that to my friends. I'd like to take this opportunity to apologize to my good friend PJ Hart, Derek Walters, and Kim Dwyer, and anybody else, and Jim Smith. You know, poor guy. I've suckered him into helping me finish up 2 builds at Trike Fest. I just like hanging out with him. Button is there too, you know, so it's good stuff. But I'm not going to do that again. So we did finish that at Trike Fest, and the conclusion aired on July 2nd. On the 20th, June 20th, is when we left for Trike Fest. This was Palin's first time going. She really wanted to go in 2022. I wouldn't let her, but she came. She hustled. She was selling handmade crafts to all my buddies and stealing their money, and I was just so proud of her. And she won the best custom build for the pink Palomino. Was it the best build, in my opinion, because I built it? I don't think it was. There was better ones out there, but she campaigned, and she had the best campaign. So if it was a popularity contest, which I guess it was, that's why she won. And when I came home, I was surprised that my wife wanted to have a conversation with me. It ended up not being 3-wheeler related, so you don't need to be concerned. But She had found a 1955 Nash Metropolitan that she really, it excited her. She was excited to get it. We'd seen one at a museum at the Hershey AACA car museum back the fall before that, and she'd actually found one for sale. So we went and picked one up for her, and she loves that car. So it fits her perfectly. But that brings us into July. Real quick, we did the Independence Day parade in our hometown. She drove her new Metropolitan. I drove my dad's 57 Plymouth. On the 3rd, I got a shipment of tires from Travis Gisclair, some Serwa tires for the 250SX. Those are going to go on Bennett's 86. As soon as I pull the rims off and powder coat them, we can get those swapped around. I've been distracted and haven't got to that, but stay tuned for that. On the 8th, we started preparing. This is the 8th of July. I started preparing for the 2nd annual vintage ATC ATV event at my house. And it was pretty much a month of nights and weekends getting the property ready, getting some things finalized for that, because, you know, could be a lot of people here. I don't want them to I don't want people to know that my shop is normally horrendous looking and a lot of my machines aren't really cleaned all the time. And, you know, you got to make people think you're something you're not. So I had to start preparing for that, you know, typical stuff. On the 9th, I added a homemade metering valve to my sandblast cabinet. So, because Harbor Freight sandblast cabinets are notorious for not picking up media consistently. So there's some upgrades you can make to that. I did a metering valve that I made myself. Check out that video. It's just recently started to get a bunch of views. So apparently people are finding it, but I'm going to do some extra upgrades, new glass, foot switch, and better lighting. So that's coming up too. I'll do a video on that. On the 13th, my Trike Fest video, Trike Fest 2023, aired, and that is my most viewed video from this year. Well, this year total. I think got 43,000 views, 45,000 views. So, you know, it's not hundreds of thousands of views like, you know, Shred 80 gets and some of these other channels, but we're just over here doing what we do. On the 14th, I aired the video of the wedding of Matt and Bev Keller. So congratulations, Matt and Bev. That was the one of the most awesome weddings I've ever been to. It was you just got to watch the video, but pretty funny. On the 16th of July, I started putting the metal up on the ceiling in my shop. And let me show you that because I'm pretty proud. Well, this room is not insulated, if you've ever wondered. I store a lot of stuff up in the rafters. I'd like to not do that. Now, eventually we'll remedy that. But this is the only space in this building that's heated. And up until July, you could look up and see the vapor barrier over my insulation, kind of like this. And it was starting to get, you know, yellowed, and, you know, I haven't got it. Shop's not finished, but the metal portion is finished with these LED lights that I mentioned before and the white, you know, shiny reflective surface. It really adds a lot of brightness to the shop. So very excited to have that done. And then in addition to other preparations, I put in a culvert out in my backwoods to even out a piece of trail that had been bumpy my whole life, and I really wanted to do this. I started to do it when I was a young man with shovels and it didn't work, but now I'm living that tractor life, and I got a big piece of culvert, and Bennett helped me, and we got that knocked out. So July turns into August. On the 3rd, the metal was finally done in here, and we finished in the bonus shop. That's got metal on the ceiling too. And I spent the next 12 hours straight just trying to get the place clean before people started showing up, because the event started on the 4th. And of course, the first guy here, my buddy Jared, also known as Tricycle Guy from YouTube fame. He brought the prototype 250R up and put that on a little turntable and displayed it. Wasn't too much later that Curdy and Cameron Eldridge showed up, and I was honored to have him on site. He brought a bunch of bottles of moonshine, jars of moonshine, and we indulged a little bit Friday night, and we did not on Saturday because Friday night didn't end very well. Anyway, Nick Shannels from West Michigan Motorsports, Hoorah, came and drove all the way out from Michigan. Curdy drove from Tennessee. Nick drove from Michigan. Patrick Wells drove from Alabama. We had the Wones, father-son operation. Magnus and Robert Wone drove up from South Carolina. Ryan Mallon drove in from very eastern Massachusetts. Trying to think of all the extremities, but a lot of people came from a lot of distance, so it was pretty awesome.
74.
1 year.
1 year.
And then it went to the K3.
I don't even know if they stopped with the K thing.
That had steel wheels?
Or maybe 75 they did.
75, I think, was a
Yeah,
K3.
it could be.
But it was a steel. It was a third.
This is what happens when you get some of the smartest three-wheeler guys in the world picking apart picture for a puzzle.
74 was a plastic front.
But is that
no
the
tires?
Is that the right carb?
Is it the altitude? Altitude knob?
That's really all he wants to know.
I see the altitude knob on there. It's like a boot that's worn out that your toes are sticking out.
It's not the right
Who
carb.
is this? Who is this lady?
It's all null and void.
I think she's famous.
Pretty awesome. The main event happened on the 5th. We had just over 180 people here. I was really thinking we were going to hit 220 to 250, but it ended up being 180. Weather was great. Saturday was all clear. We did the events. We had the blindfolded race. We had the slowest wheelie competition. We had the red solo cup race through the woods, and just a fantastic day. And we had a fire afterwards. We had s'mores. Friday night we had 40 people here. 40 people came in. It turned into a party. We had fish fry from local Boy Scout troop. We really blessed them with a lot of business for them, and then the 180 plus people on Saturday. We had a food truck, and then when everybody left Sunday morning, I mean most people left Saturday, but there were still a few dozen people here Sunday morning. They all pulled out by 10 o'clock in the morning. You wouldn't know anything happened. It was pretty awesome, and we are definitely doing it again. And I've got some stuff up my sleeve, so hoping it comes to fruition, but we'll see. If you want to find out how you can attend that event, you got to reach out to me on either Facebook or Instagram. Facebook is preferred through Messenger, and just start talking to me. And honestly, I don't want to invite just anybody, so I want to see that you're not some crazy person that wants to come up and just scope out my stuff. But if you can prove that to me, you're invited. Easy as that. On the 6th, everyone headed out. I already mentioned that. On the 7th, I was so burnt out. I've been prepping things for over a month, and I just needed to take a break. So instead of getting up every morning and coming out here and just plugging away on stuff, I slept in. I started kind of taking a break. I did find on the 18th the barn find, which is actually a hanger find 185S, which sits over here to my left. We pulled that out of the hangar and brought it home. It was only about 20 minutes away from home. The 27th, I did an indoor wheelie on my 350X just to upset the internet. On the 27th, we did a part 2 on the 88 Big Red. This was old footage from May, I think, where I took it down to powder coating. The 28th is when Dan Henning reached out and pointed out my welding issues were because I was using the wrong wire. September 3rd, I made the video "Don't Get Scammed" on Instagram for my YouTube video, because I don't know how many people have reached out to me and they've bought stuff from the people they think are Travis Gisclair, because there's people stealing his pictures. That's what it is. These Instagram scammers are just picture stealers. And when you stand back and look at it, there's always multiple red flags. And you've allowed yourself to give that person the benefit of the doubt on multiple occasions, and it ends up costing thousands of dollars, usually. September 11th, I did a Trike Fest Fat Cat ride. I wasn't recording much, so I was using some old material, putting it out there. I did a second Mecum auction video. The Red Chain Bandit was there, but wasn't getting the big dollars he was getting the first time, so I was very happy to see that, because the guy is legit ripping people off, and it's pretty crappy of a person to do that, don't you think? Anyway, Tony Riba. There was a 250R that brought halfway decent money. So there was that. On the 18th, I did the Barn Find 185S video. We got it running. I think it just sat with an open valve or a open exhaust valve or open intake valve, and it's just things were sticky. Eventually it popped off, and every time I run it, it's clearing out and runs better and better. So that was pretty cool. September 30th, we did a charity car cruise in my dad's 57 Plymouth. That was pretty cool. We, in hindsight, might have picked a sportier car that has better suspension because that thing's very boatish. And though having a 392 Hemi in it, it did struggle to keep up that day with a lot of the sports cars. October 3rd, 223 Cycles sent me the carburetor for that 86 350X. So we put that back on and got that machine running again. So that was outstanding. A local pontoon boat popped up for sale. And we decided to upgrade our boat situation. We got the pontoon boat. We'll be selling a bow rider in the spring. And on the 18th, I finally finished, after 9+ years, the closet in our master bedroom. It's a walk-in closet, 10 by 10, and I did all the shelves and drawers and things myself. And I got burnt out with it, and things weren't going how I wanted them to. And it took a little bit longer than expected, but it's finally done. And now I can finish up that dining room table. On the 22nd of October, I did the 84 ATC lineup video, so that's cool. I had ambitions to get the 83 lineup done, but just the way I had things tucked away, and now having to get ATC 70s down off a shelf with the tractor, it just made it a little bit too much to get done in time. On the 30th of October, I won't get into the story, but I started posting on TikTok. I had a This Old Trike TikTok that I really wasn't doing anything with, but I started getting into it, and I've grown my TikTok following to over 10,000. This_old_trike on TikTok. So follow me there if you're into that sort of thing. If you're not, don't even worry about it. But if you're seeing all my shorts on YouTube, you're seeing the same stuff on TikTok. So on November, let's change up the scenery. November 11th, 2023, everything got wadded into this room for winter. It was overstuffed. I really needed to focus and put some attention into the other front room with the light up sign to optimize that space, to defragment, and then I could take some of the things that were wadded in here and redistribute to make it nicer. But at least I got everything out of the weather on the 11th. On the 18th, we went out on the mud flats. This was our only opportunity to get out there. The water has come up. The weather didn't cooperate. It was late getting out there. But November 18th, we went out on the mud flats. Ryan Mallon and Bill Breslin came out from Massachusetts and blessed us with their presence. Ryan said he'd be back, but this weather didn't cooperate. But my good buddy Pat Doherty, was in high school. Pat and I were inseparable. My longest running best friend. Dave Essler is another outstanding friend of mine. He lives local. We still see each other quite often. A good buddy, Kevin Corrigan, grew up in Albany, New York. Now he lives in Michigan, but all of us used to get together and, cause trouble back in the 90s. Back in the 1900s, we used to get together. And they were all out on the mud flats that day too. So it was a really special day. I really enjoyed myself, and I was thankful to get together with those guys. And Palin wasn't with us that day because she was getting ready to be in a play, Annie Kids, that night. So I got off the mud flats, got showered up, and went and watched my daughter be in a play. So that was cool. On the 24th, Bennett and I started tearing down our dock. It needed to be overhauled, and we ripped the top deck off that, and we have ambitions to put it back, but the water has come up over 6 feet, so the dock is now floating, not sitting on the beach, so we got a problem. On the 26th, the 85 200X that I have, that my daughter named Lance, we brought that in the shop and cleaned the carb out on it and got that running. It had never run right since I got it, but now it's finally joins the ranks of running and riding machines. On December 2nd, Bennett was out riding the TRX 90. The chain jumped, and we just made a video recently of putting that chain back on and getting that in running condition. On December 3rd, I got in that front room and I played Trike Tetris and really tightened things up. I brought, I think, 12 machines that were wadded in here out to that room. So now I've got space in here to move around, and things look a lot nicer up there too. It's crazy how tightly you can fit in these machines, and sometimes, you know, standing them on end helps. Sometimes you don't have to do that. But anyway, this December 11th, just a recent video, you saw me go pick up a Bandito US 90. And if you don't know what that is, watch the video. But I was following instructions, and I drove out behind my buddy's parents' house to fetch this machine, and I got stuck. The ground was really soft and waterlogged, and 3 hours later, in one tow truck call, we were out. That same day, but the video aired later, was Pat Farnham's shop tour and the 86 Ducati that he restored. And that's been getting a lot of views. So that's cool. A cool way to get some Kawasaki content without having to own one myself. And ending up the year, we did a video on that 185S that we got out of the airplane hangar. Finally got the wheels and tires back on it. It runs and rides. Like I said, it's sounding better each time I run it. I think the oil is lubing up the valve train, and so it's really starting to even out and sound good. And with the time I had off from work at the end of the year, I really spent some time in my shop. And let me show you what I did. So before we go in the other room, you see we got things freed up here. Here's my rider. There's not an abundance of room, but there's room. So I really didn't do anything in this space. You'll see that blast cabinet behind this one. That's the one that's set up for vapor honing, so that's a cool thing. I'll do a video on that some other time. There's all the wood for the dining room table. Here's the 88 Big Red. That's a New Kids on the Block poster, if you were wondering. Just why not have that in the shop? But what I've done in this room, because this was atrocious. I know all of our shops have a tendency to get atrocious, but this one was bad, and I wanted to gear up for projects for the coming year. So I got all of my surfaces cleared up. The 85 250R that I've had since 1997 is front and center. We're going to get to that. I finally got trim around my door. I finally got trim around my window. I got trim around this door. So the last thing that needs trim is this door. And I got to finish up some things, like I pointed out, the OSB up top. But let me look at my notes. Like I said, getting this cleaned up sets me up for these projects for 2024. And what projects do I have? So I wrote them down here on a piece of shop paper. The 85 250R is my focus. And I've got the vapor honed cases. Got the vapor hone cases from Mike Pomgren sitting in the box over here. I ordered an engine stand from Wicked Metal Designs, Rob Wicks, to build that on, because that's the way Dave Moore does it in the videos that Michael Sabo has put out. They're awesome. I'm going to be following them pretty much exclusively while I do that, but you'll see those videos. So that's the first thing, because I'm sure when I am working on this, I'm going to discover some things that I forgot to have plated or that need attention. And I'm going to send those things along with my 88 Big Red top end to Mike Pomgren. Andy Collins, one of my insiders that I mentioned, he just had Mike do this work for him. And it's just, what am I doing? I'm kidding myself if I think me blasting bead in this shop is going to make this engine look anywhere as near as good as Mike can make it look. And the thing didn't run like a sewing machine when I drove it last, so it needs a new top end and timing chain, and if we're going through all this trouble, let's make it right the first time. But when we do that build, we're going to have the 86 Big Red donor machine in here. That donor is going to donate its whole chassis and everything to my Big Blue. The Big Blue fenders go on that, and then the chassis from the Big Blue becomes whatever it becomes, and then that's going to get sold. So that's coming up. I've got some 200M content to make. I've got two 84s and an 85. The 184 needs to get the chrome racks put on it that I got from my buddy MRC Builds. I need to give him a shout out. The 85 needs some love. We stole a fender off that to do the 84 200E. I've got a new old stock fender to go on that, so I can swap things around. And we're gonna do a lifted 200M and with one of those kits from Noah Olson. So that's coming. Get ready for that. We've got to do an ATC 70 for Bennett. Stretch the frame. I've got the tank. I've got the seat. I've got the bars. I've got the engine. I've got all that. It's going to be very similar to the Pink Palomino, but with traditional ATC 70 fenders. That 87 125M over there, I just bought a set of forks for, because they're not bent, but they have some dings in them. Like stuff that have to be welded and ground out. So I just bought a set. I'm going to have those powdered and swap them over on that and maybe detail and clean that up a little bit. We got the Budget Bandito from Donnie Bizall. I just want to get that running and riding, or at least on 3 wheels again. And the 85 SX, I've got some original PV tires to go on that. And the tires on the 86 SX. So that's what's coming. But let's close this out. Let's tell you the stats real quick. I know I'm long-winded as it is, and I apologize. If you made it this far, you guys are awesome. But here's the stats. So machines bought. This is my 3rd year-end wrap-up video, and I always talk about the machines bought. And I was kind of surprised at the numbers this year because they were light. They were very low. And the reason for this is I've really accomplished what I set out to do. The goal for me with this collection was to get one of each model, year, and color that Honda made of 3-wheelers, not 4-wheelers. So any 4-wheelers you see, there's a reason I have them, but I'm not out to collect all the 4-wheelers. It'd be cool to get them all, but the piggy bank is not bottomless. If it were, that'd be different. If it were, I wouldn't have sold as many things as I've sold. But so machines bought in 2023, I only bought 4 machines. I bought an 86 Fat Cat from my friend Donnie Bizall. I told you about that. I told you about the 86 350X from Jim Phillips. I told you about the 83 185S Barn Find and the US 90 Bandito. But just to contrast that with past years, in 2016, before I really was even trying to collect anything, I bought 3 machines. In 2017, I bought 32 machines. I was starting to get hot and heavy, trying to track down all the models. I had my spreadsheet going. In 2018, I bought 65 machines. And 24 of them came from one acquisition, and that was what I call the New Jersey deal. So the New Jersey deal was in 2018, 65 machines. 2019, and this doesn't include parts machines, carcasses, like they all might not have been running riding machines. They might have been in pieces, but if there was enough pieces to build it and it was mostly assembled, I counted it. If it was a full-blown project, I might not have counted it. So I could have gone higher with these numbers, is what I'm saying. So 65 and 18. 2019, only 42. Only 42 machines, plus a Honda line trailer from Canada. In 2020, that was a big year. This is when I bought my buddy Toby's collection, or most of it, and a lot of spare parts from him. But I bought 70 machines in 2020. So that's like one every 5 days. It wasn't one every 5 days because usually they come in multiples, but pretty cool. So I had the Toby deal. 2019 had a deal from my buddy out near Buffalo. He had a bunch of minis on a trailer. I bought the trailer too. But 2021, I bought 34 machines. I have the cell numbers too. I sold 17. Oops. In 2022, I bought 24 machines. I sold 14. So 2023, I bought 4 machines and I sold 3. So only up 1 from this past year. I made, that's not the right number. Why didn't I? put the right number down. I made like 45 videos this year, which was less than what I made last year. I made 65 last year. I think when I got burnt out in August after the event, there's like a 6-week stint or 5-week stint where I didn't put a video out. So I've had more success with the videos I made this year than I did last year. So that's good, a good stat to show the channel's growing, and I'm excited for that. I usually write down, all the different states I got a machine from. Everything I got came from New York. Everything I got, I could drive within 45 minutes to go pick up. Imported, in 2021, I imported 1 machine. In 2022, I imported 2. I didn't import anything this year. I didn't crash this year. I went to 1 Trike Fest. I had 1 vintage show. I was in 2 parades, 1 at Trike Fest and 1 at home. The 1 at home didn't involve 3-wheelers though. And current subscriber count is just over 13,600. And we ended up last year with just under 8,000 subscribers. So I've grown by like 5,600 subscribers, and the membership program too. But it's all been very awesome, and it's cool to meet people. It's cool to interact with everyone. I'm just very thankful that there's people like you guys out there that find this stuff interesting, and it is of value to you guys, and that you enjoy them. That's what keeps me going. And knowing that there's people like you guys out there that are waiting for, they'll reach out. When's the 88 Big Red? When are you going to work on that again? When are you going to finish up this 250R? It's motivating to me to keep going, because you guys are holding me accountable. So thank you all very much. Have a very happy new year. 2024, I'm sure, is going to be amazing for everyone. And keep watching. I'm going to do a question and answer video. Probably not today because I've been out here for a bit, but I got to write down everyone's questions, and we'll answer those, and we'll go from there. But thanks again. Have a fantastic evening, 2024, all the things. We'll catch you next time.